Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Puzzles and More here, and welcome to my spoiler review for the Fantastic Four First Steps. And my god, the movie was fantastic. This is probably, if not the best Marvel movie, like, this is the best Marvel movie of this year, no cap. It was just so fun and visualizational and something like that, but holy crap, what do I even say about this movie? First of all, I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. Best Fantastic Four movie of all time. Best Fantastic Four comic movie of all time. Let's just get straight into it. The characters first. Reed Richards, Pedro Pascal was amazing. He was pretty much the leader of the group. Well, kind of in the movie. You'll understand why. Pedro Pascal was a good Reed Richards, and I love the dynamics with his stretchy powers. I love it. It was pretty, and he's a charismatic dad, which I'll talk about later. He's just the smartest man in the room. Tony Stark was the smartest man in the MCU, but now it's Reed Richards. Since we'll talk about, and speaking of Tony, I'm going to talk about the thing later anyways. But now we got Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. My man. This is probably, if not the best Sue Storm adaptation ever. This is like, if not the best Sue Storm we've ever gotten in like a Marvel project. Don't give me doubts. She's a good Sue Storm, and I'm gonna move my plush here. Yeah, Sue Storm is basically just the best member of the group. I'm sorry. Light manipulation with her rainbow light manipulation powers and her going invisible. My God. Oh, that was a pretty, yeah, and like, I like her, like, powers and stuff. The force fields and, invisibility, and I'm gonna talk more about Sue Storm later when we get to another character. But Sue, for right now, is just the best female in the MCU since Wanda Maximoff. No kidding. Anyways, now, Johnny Storm. Oh, boy. I was skeptical on Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch, but after I seen the trailers and after I seen this movie, my God, he's a perfect Johnny Storm. Like, he's the most comic accurate Johnny Storm we've ever gotten, probably more than Chris Evans, but in the 2005 movie. But I think this version is better. He has that Johnny Storm-esque energy, and he says "flame on" in one of the scenes, and I love it, man. Johnny is just the charismatic Joker of the group, and every scene he's in, like when he and Ben Grimm are talking about the Sunday dinner, and Johnny saying, and Ben arguing with Johnny, it's probably pretty much a good way. And speaking of Ben, here's the thing. He's right there in the middle of the screen. Here's the thing. He's fantastic. Anyways, now moving on to the thing. And here's the thing. Thing was fantastic. And I think he's my second favorite member of the group. I just love Ben Grimm. Probably, if not one of the most iconic Marvel characters out there for a team. I can't get over the rock and the motion capture they put on. They had to put a practical suit for Ebon Moss-Backrack, and then Ebon, and then they used CGI, and then we got this thing. The thing. Get it? Anyways, and Ben was pretty much, and he was cooking with Herbie, which Herbie we'll talk about after. Ben is just the charismatic, strong guy of the team. I like when he saves the ship and everything. And spoiler alert, Johnny and Ben's dynamics in that ending fight where he says, "What time is it, Ben?" And then Ben's like, "I'm not gonna say it." And then Johnny says, "Say it!" And then Ben finally says the line, "It's clobbering time!" I was in my theater and I loved that moment so much. And there is a fifth member of the group, Herbie. Oh my God, this little robot dude! I love him so. I love this robot so much. I wish I had one of these. Herbie, the main robot assistant of the Fantastic Four, and seeing Herbie voiced by General Grievous's voice actor was insane. I can't believe they got him to do Herbie, and it's just every little noise Herbie makes, it's so cute, especially with his banter towards another character I'll be talking about next. I am just saying this. Herbie. I'm just gonna say it. Herbie Cooks, third favorite member of the group, even though he's not technically a member of the Fantastic Four, but he is in my book. I love him. I love every scene he's in. Is just so cute. And speaking of cute, the sixth character, Franklin Richards. Oh my god. Every scene Franklin was in, not every single scene, but some scenes, like his dynamics with Sue Storm pretty much gets me on guard. And Franklin is a main key point interest in the movie. Franklin Richards in the comics is one of the, if not the most powerful characters in the Marvel universe, literally creating universes, and he's going to play a big role in Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, but we'll talk about that later. Franklin is a baby, and this movie takes place in 1965, and then, spoiler alert, I'll talk about the post-credit scene in a moment, but here's a thing. The post-credit scene takes place in 1969, and Franklin is 4 years old, and I love it. And now, oh boy, there's a bunch of villains to go over. First of all, let's get these ones out of the way. Red Ghost. Red Ghost was not in the movie, but they did make references to him. We did see Red Ghost in the first teaser back in February, but they cut him from the movie, and we only got the monkey. We only got one of his monkey henchmen during the beginning fight with Reed Richards, during when the four are saving the town from multiple threats. Red Ghost was one of them. And another character I expected to appear was Gigano, based on the Pizza Hut commercial. Gigano, oh my god, the very first Fantastic Four villain, along with another villain who we'll be talking about. Oh my god, they got I think the Gigano in the movie is probably, if not better than the one in the Pizza Hut commercial. He's just so comic accurate. Everything in this movie is comic accurate. Gigano only made a cameo. He only had like 7 seconds of screen time, and but he's not the best villain, side villain of the movie. But I think the key standout side villain was Mole Man. Mole Man, Paul Walter Hauser, did a great job as Mole Man. He is a minor / major part of the storyline, and the world of Subterranea underneath the New York City was so cool. Literally filmed scenes inside Subterranea. And I'll talk about Subterranea once we get to the ending fight, excuse me. Anyways, now on to the two big villains. Silver Surfer, Julia Garner. Oh my god, it's better than Norrin Radd in the 2007 movie, I'm sorry. This is probably, if not the best Silver Surfer adaptation for a movie I've ever seen. Sorry, Norrin Radd, I think Shia LaBeouf takes the cake. Like, seeing her surfboard during the whole escape from Tattoo scene, and when she destroys those bridges, it's just fantastic. I can't say much about it, but oh my god, oh my god. And her dynamics with Johnny during the beginning, and during the scene where Johnny explains the Silver Surfer's past, and we see her past origin, and she was like a little girl, and then the ship of Tattoo, Galactus, I'll talk about him in a moment. And then Galactus made her the Silver Surfer, a Shia LaBeouf Silver Surfer, and Julia Garner did amazing in that role. And now, speaking of the big Galactus, Ralph Ineson. Oh boy, what do I say? I think Ralph Ineson, even though he did not do much damage to the New York City, I still consider him to be either a top 15 or top 10 MCU villain. I mean, he's just that darn good. Ralph Ineson is probably, if not the best choice for Galactus. I mean, his voice when the Fantastic Four reached his ship, it's just so good. He's like, "Rams are in my stands. I need the kid." That's pretty much That's pretty much Ralph Ineson's voice right there. It was just in my when I saw the scene in theaters, I could just hear the echoing around the room. Like, oh my god. If you've seen the movie, you probably know that his voice is just echo all over the place. And and the final fight with Galactus was actually pretty good. Oh my god. But now I'm going to explain the plot of the movie. So the movie takes place in 1965 and it's set on Universe 828, which Matt Shackman's birthday is August 28th, and August 28th for that matter, and that's a reference to Matt Shackman's birth date, August 28th. And we know in the movie Reed and Sue are pregnant during and then if you know their origin story, they get hit with cosmic rays. They get hit with cosmic radiation, and then and then they become the Fantastic Four. And we see them, and we see a montage of them fighting previous villains like Red Ghost, Gigano, and of course Mole-Man. And Mole-Man gets arrested and puts under Subterranea, and then they have their Sunday, and then they're at a press conference in the Ted Gilbert show, and I also have to mention Ted Gilbert. He was pretty amazing as well. That actor did an amazing job. And then we get to the Sunday dinner scene. It was pretty cute, man. And Ben realizing, saying that you pregnant, it just got me off guard, man. And then after the whole dinner scene, there is a few more bits of New York City. I just love the 60s retro futuristic looks. The Fantastic Car was pretty good. It was only in for a few scenes, but I loved it. And like, this whole world in general was good. Ben interacting with the kids at a school was good. Lift that car moment was good. And Natasha Lyonne plays, I forgot her name, but I'm gonna look it up while I'm talking. Natasha Lyonne, remember her? She was a Birdie in What If Season 3. She was Howard the Duck and Darcy Lewis's kid. Remember her? I remember her. At least she done justice in this movie. Like, Natasha Lyonne was pretty much a good actress overall. And Ben Grimm, in the comics, hang on a second, I'm gonna search this up. I forgot her name. It's gonna take me a little while, but my computer's just so darn slow. Alright, hang on a second. Anyways, yeah, Ben Grimm was pretty good towards those kids. Hang on a second, my computer is being a bitch. Hang on. Anyways, yeah, Natasha Lyonne was great, and speaking of cameos, we also got the Roger Kirkman 1994 Fantastic Four canceled movie. Well, the four actors that played Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Ben Grimm the Thing, and the Human Torch all made cameos in the movie. Like, there was a few cameos during the montage fight. I think one of the firefighters was the original actors for both Johnny and Ben. Then I think Reed Richards was during one of the news segments, and Vanessa Kirby was, not Vanessa Kirby, the other actor for Sue Storm from the 90s was there, and also in one of the segments as well. That was pretty fantastic. And now the Silver Surfer's arrival. That arrival scene was pretty good. And it was pretty fantastic, to say the least. And then the whole Galactus speech was amazing. Johnny going after her was good. And him saying to Johnny, I will die for you, or whatever, it was pretty okay. And that comes back later in the movie. I already talked about that, not going to talk about it again. And then there's space launch. And then we know Sue Storm is pregnant, real quick. And then we go on the spaceship. We go up. We go on the spaceship, and then this is probably, if not one of the best scenes in the movie. We go to the planet of contraction. I forgot that planet. It's from the comics. I forgot the planet name, but we go to the planet, and then Galactus is consuming the planet with his ship Tatu, which it's his remnants of Ta 1 from his planet of Ta 1. And the planet is getting destroyed, and then Silver Surfer arrives, and then we go into the ship of Galactus, and starts one of the best scenes in the movie. Ralph Ineson speaks as Galactus for the first time about, you know, and he's gonna devour the Earth unless the Fantastic Four give Galactus their kid, which is Franklin Richards, who is still inside Sue, and Galactus knows that Franklin Richards is inside Sue Storm. So they have to they pass the deal, and Johnny flies to Galactus and he burns him, but it does not do any damage. And Silver Surfer also chases after them. Well, she does have some when she hears that the Galactus needs the child for his power, Surfer's kind of like, "You betraying me or something?" And she still goes after the Fantastic Four, but I thought that was just a cool detail. And then she chases after the Fantastic Four, and this really cool epic scene where they go on their ship, the Excelsior. I forgot to mention that name. And then we go into this like black hole interstellar type segment. Like, I can't even believe they actually did this, man. And then while this is all happening, Sue is giving birth to Franklin Richards. And the one shot of the Silver Surfer where they go and trap her inside a black hole. Oh my god. Doesn't this just remind you of Interstellar just a little bit? Man, I think Matt Shakman got the right to direct this scene. Anyways, so after a long time, after they put the Surfer in, Franklin is born. And he's already born with powers, so more important for later. And then they go back to Earth and tell the press about Galactus on how the press asks, "How did you stop Galactus?" And then Reed's like, "We didn't stop Galactus. He's coming to our Earth." And then we know there's going to be protests happening. They said, "And one more question." And one guy said, "Are we safe?" And then Reed says, "Are we safe?" And then, "I don't know." And then the protest starts happening, and they need to do childcare for Franklin, obviously. We go back inside the Baxter building, and they're figuring out a plan to stop Galactus. Remember, they showed off a test example being the bridge, which Reed tested out with Johnny earlier in the movie, where they had an egg and tested it on his miniature bridge, and then it teleports, and then the room kind of loses power. That's what they're doing in the next segment. But before we do that, Sue has this really heartful conversation when the protests are happening. She brings Franklin along and introduces them to Franklin, and oh my god, this whole speech, I'm not going to cover the whole speech in this video, but if you've watched the movie, this speech, "We will fight it together as a family," that like whole entire speech with Sue and Franklin, just top tier, man. This is what the Fantastic Four are. And then they do the bridge plan, and all seems to go well until the Silver Surfer comes in and destroys all 36 of the bridges except for one, which is in New York, by the way, and they're saving that as a major plot point for later. And then during that scene we have a fight with Reed and Sue about Franklin Richards, and that whole scene where they're trying to put Franklin to sleep was kind of cute, honestly. It almost made me cry in the theater. More on that later. And then Galactus passes by Jupiter, and then Mars, and then the moon, and then the Fantastic Four kind of have a major splitting up trio, and if you've seen the movie, you probably know why. But now let's go to the final fight scene. Galactus invades New York, and his shadow looms over it, and then he jumps in next to a few buildings, and then causes a tsunami wave. That's what we needed. And then Galactus goes for Franklin. We see the bridge plan is going to work, but Galactus is too smart. So they have Franklin Richards in there, but Johnny grabs Franklin and puts him in the Baxter building for Herbie to keep him safe. And then Galactus realizes, oh, Franklin's not in there. I think I know your plans. And then he goes straight towards the Baxter building. And it was a pretty good scene. And then Galactus looms over with Herbie and Franklin watching. Galactus shows up and then Herbie closes the doors. But Galactus's hand slaps Franklin and Herbie is gone. That version of Herbie is gone. And then we don't see Herbie until the very end of the movie. And then Galactus with that whole scene with Franklin, oh my god, it almost gave me tears. And then Sue going in, the characters using their powers, like Johnny trying to flame Galactus, nothing. Ben trying to pull him, kind of something, but Galactus throws Ben in the sky, obviously. And then Reed is trying to, Mr. Fantastic is trying to open Galactus's like mechanical parts, but Galactus's hand stretches Reed. It almost looks like John Krasinski, Reed Richards all over again. I didn't want it to happen, but luckily, Johnny's saying, "What time is it, Ben?" And then Ben's like, "No." And then, "Say it!" And then Ben says the line, "It's clobbering time!" And then slaps into Galactus. It was cool indeed. Oh my god, it was fantastic. And then Sue Storm trying to use her powers to put Galactus into the bridge was kind of a great idea. But this uses Galactus is too strong and Sue uses her power way too much. And the Galactus going into the thing works at first, but he starts to come out. And Johnny is trying to make the sacrifice play. He tries to save the four members, Reed, Sue, Ben, and Franklin. But Silver Surfer comes in and does the job for Johnny. Stops Galactus, because obviously during that whole conversation, Shalla does have a change of heart and saves the Fantastic Four from Galactus. And then this moments, major spoiler alert, if you don't want to skip to this part, skip to the next part. Anyways, spoiler alert, but Sue almost dies. And them mourning over Sue, it literally just made me cry in the theater. This is the first time a Marvel movie has ever made me cry. I have not cried at the Thunderbolts, I've not cried at Guardians. But this, oh my god, it's just too emotional. And Franklin, even Franklin, man, is like this like, I can't even stress enough, man. They think Sue's dead, but Franklin uses his powers for the first time and wakes up Sue. Like, that whole scene just gave me tears. Oh my god. And then the family, and then Franklin clapping. The first thing he does when Sue wakes up, Franklin is just clapping like, yay! And then like, oh my god, that whole scene was so cute and emotional at the same time. And then now we move to the Ted Gilbert show once again. Ted Gilbert is now explaining the Fantastic Five, but the Fantastic Four's Rich Roch goes off, and then they try to go save the city. And the end of the movie, we see that Franklin has a new thing, and they got to try to fix the Fantastic car. And they're gonna go in the Fantastic car. They go up and try to save the city again, and then the movie ends. And then the credits. Oh my god, man! But there's 2 credit scenes. I'm gonna do the post-credit scene first because I'm gonna do the mid-credit scene for after. The post-credit scene. I'm gonna explain this one first. Kind of a fun one. You got a 60s cartoon, Fantastic Four, kind of 60s cartoon, Power Hour, kind of. That's what the theme is. Fantastic Four Power Hour. They show clips from the 60s Fantastic Four, but it's actually the 2025 Fantastic Four with the 60s cartoon kind of. Reed, you could see villains like Mole Man again, you could see Red Ghost, even the Mad Tinker and Arcade is in there, and Red Dragon's there too. These are all villains that the Fantastic Four ever fought. Gigano, Mole Man, Red Ghost, the Dragon thing, and Mad Tinkerer, Arcade, so many villains that the Fantastic Four thought were in this segment. And we're seeing and then Herbie is playing that thing, and then he turns it off. Then that part ends. And now get to the mid-credits scene. One of, if not the most important post-credit scenes to set up a movie I've ever seen. So, the mid-credit scene takes place 4 years later, so now we're in 1969. And then we see Sue reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar, where she's at the very end of the book, and Sue reads the book and says, it was the part where the hungry caterpillar turns into a very beautiful butterfly, and then Franklin joins along, and then he became a really beautiful butterfly, and that was pretty wholesome. And then Sue tries to ask Herbie to get Franklin on another book, and then Herbie holds up that book about that one of the books, and then Sue says Franklin's already read that one. You want to get him another one? And then he pulls up a Dr. Seuss book. Didn't think I noticed that. But anyways, the real shit begins to kick in when Sue notices something. You can hear like a doom doom doom. You could hear like the music going in, and then you can hear like a whoosh sound effect. And then Sue uses his powers, and then she goes and sees what's going on, and then a hooded figure with an iconic mask holds Franklin, and then the credits end, mid-credit scene ends. If you don't know who that is, major spoiler alert, that hooded figure with that mask is Doctor Doom, or it could be Doctor Doom, or it could be a Doombot. Who knows? It could be another Doctor Doom. But this is the Doctor Doom. If movie is clearly setting up that Doctor Doom is from 828, then I'm buying it. But either this is Doctor Doom or this is a Doombot. I'm still believing that this is the official Doctor Doom. And we know Robert Downey Jr. is going to be playing Doctor Doom in Avengers Doomsday. And it ends with the Fantastic Four will return in Avengers Doomsday. And that's it for this movie. Overall, just a fantastic experience I had in the theater with my mom. Just me and my mom went to the theater, and oh my god, this was just such a perfect movie. I give it a 10 out of 10, best Fantastic Four adaptation I've ever seen. But let me know what your thoughts on the movie are, and hope you enjoyed my long spoiler review. My SMG4 maybe trailer or movie reaction coming tomorrow. We don't know if tomorrow's episode is going to be a trailer or a movie. They really hyped it up in the last episode. Anyways, I hope to see you for the SMG4 reaction tomorrow. See you later, friends!